I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about MetaStock. It's my turn here. And again, this is the second time I'm going to read the legal disclaimer. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about MetaStock. And I'm going to show you the very first trading methodology that I started trading with many years ago. It happens to be included in MetaStock, and I'll show you exactly how it works. It's actually really a pretty straightforward system. We'll look at it on your stocks. So if you have stocks you want to look at or symbols you want to look at, start piling them in. We're only going to have a chance to maybe look at 2 or 3 of them. So the first 2 or 3 are the ones I'm going to take. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I've worked at MetaStock as of this March. The last March that we had is 22 years. It is one of the best companies I've ever worked with personally. I absolutely love it here. We're based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I started 22 years ago in our inside sales team. So if you had questions on the product, there was a good chance that you'd give me a call. I'd talk to you a little bit about what you were doing, what you wanted to do with the software, and help you figure out if it was a good match for you. That's really how I viewed my job back then. About 9 years of doing that, I was still very much enjoying it, but I moved into the business development team. And while I was there, which just ended, by the way. But while I was in the business development team, I worked with a lot of the experts you've talked to today. Steve and I did a lot of traveling on the road. Steve Bigelow helped Steve Primo put his methodologies into MetaStock. I actually coded the initial stuff that the first version of the Adrian Mance product that we showed you earlier. So what I've done today is picked out some of my favorite add-ons and some of my favorite people to bring in a room. About 2 months ago, I decided to, I was given the chance to be in charge of our inside sales team. And so my official title is Director of Sales now. And that's been a lot of fun. It's nice to do something brand new after like 13 years of doing something. And I'm just getting my feet wet with it. Hopefully I'm doing a pretty good job, but I'm just figuring out what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying doing it. It is nice to take on a little bit of a new challenge and change it up every once in a while. So that's my history. And again, MetaStock's such a great company to work for. I've been doing it for 22 years now. The average employee length of tenure right now is 15 years, if you can believe that. It's a very tight-knit company, and we all love each other. So we are proud of what we've done. When I started, we were owned by Reuters. Reuters then became Thomson Reuters, and about 5 years ago, we bought ourselves back from Reuters. It's kind of the history there. We still have a really good relationship with Reuters, which is great because it allows us to go in and, number one, power our software with any exchange on earth almost. I mean, there's over 200 exchanges we cover, over 380,000 different instruments. It also is great because with our real-time product, which is part of the Trader's Action Pack, you actually get access to MetaStock Zenith. MetaStock Zenith is a product, I've said it a couple times today, but they spent about $1 billion on it. They developed it as a competitive product to Bloomberg. They staff it with, they put news into it from all over the world. They have 3,000 real-time or 3,000 reporters in 300 different news bureaus, and I haven't seen a product that costs $150 a month that offers nearly the stuff that Zenith does. It is fantastic, and I don't think without the relationship that we had with Reuters, being an ex-Thomson Reuters company, they'd let us get away with selling it for what they do. I mean, an Icon product, if you buy that off the shelf, is $2,100, and Zenith is very close to what you get with an Icon or with a Bloomberg. So In any case, we're a privately held company again. We're self-owned, and that's been the case for about 5 years this year, 2013. So that's enough history about us. I will say, with MetaStock, I'm going to show you a small part of it. We can go in and I'll probably set up a bit of a bonus class for you about scanning markets and testing trading ideas and, our forecaster and kind of a lot of the different things in there. But there is a reason it's been rated #1 every single year since 1993. I mean, that's literally 25 years in a row. So Michael Gill says euro US dollar. Okay, I'll throw that up there. We'll see how it looks. So today what I'm going to talk about is, like I said, the very first trading methodology that I've ever traded with. The name of the model is RMO, the Rahul Mohinder Oscillator. Okay, there's a few things I'm going to tell you about it. It's a trend following system. Have any of you heard like the trend is your friend or a rising tide lifts all boats or anything along those lines? Yeah, it's a little bit of a cliche, right? So this is a bit of a trend following system. It's a very, very simple strategy, and it's designed to kind of trade stocks. It works well with stocks that have a tendency to trend very well. Okay, the RMO itself stands for the Rahul Mohinder Oscillator. Okay, Rahul Mohinder is our dealer in India. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of history on him. He's a seasoned trader. He runs either 4 or 5. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but I should know it. Offices in India, and what they do is they teach people how to trade. They have training courses that they run. He's a panelist on CNBC and CNN India, and one of MetaStock's longest running, most prolific dealers. In fact, in most years, he's the best dealer that we've got in the world. There's been years that he's sold more MetaStock in India than we've sold here in the US. He is a very good ally of ours. We really, really appreciate the work we've done with Rahul. So, but to kind of give you a little bit of the backstory on this system and how we got it in MetaStock, Rahul flies into the office every year. He usually comes in the spring or the summer, and about, I would say, maybe like 10 years ago, right when we had MetaStock 10, one of the things that we asked him to do is we wanted to see what he was teaching people how to trade with. And he's like, well, let me show you this RMO model. And we're like, okay. We instantly kind of took a look at it. We looked at a bunch of charts, and we decided we liked it a lot. And what we did was we made an arrangement with Rahul, and ever since then we've been including the Rahul Mohinder Oscillator trading methodology in every copy of MetaStock since then. So every version since 10 has had this RMO trading model in it. I'm glad we bought it because 2 reasons. One, it's a very, very easy system to understand. And I've probably done 300 different classes on this thing, if not more. I've shown it all over the world on different stocks, different instruments. And number 2, it's also, again, like I said, one of the first methods I ever used to trade. The reason I like to show it to you, we've been talking all day long about different trading methodologies. This one's easy. It's objective, and it employs solid money management. And it will, as long as you follow the rules, employ solid management. And I can go almost anywhere in the world and get a list of like 3 to 5 symbols, whether that's like Australia or India or London, or I did a bunch of classes over the summer in Sweden. No, Switzerland. I always get those 2 confused. But I did and I showed RMO in every single city, and it works on a lot of different instruments. Not all, but it's pretty obvious which ones it works on. So that's really kind of the story behind it. And I got a little rambly there. I usually go through that a little bit quicker, but it's been a long day. So since it's a trend following system, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to identify the trend. Okay, and when we start to talk about RMO, there's really 3 different trend measurements we're going to take, and it's going to take them for us. And the first one we're going to talk about is the primary or the prevailing trend. Okay, the second one we're going to talk about is the intermediate, and then the third one is the short term. So long, medium, short. Actually, we're going to go long, short, medium, but I'll be clear about that as we go. So which software do I need to, Zakir asks, what software do I need to buy for the Indian stock market? Zakir, we do cover the Indian exchanges, the stock exchange, the futures exchange, and then there's quite a different I think there's two major exchanges, if I remember. In India, we cover both of them. And then the NSE, the National Stock Exchange, has 3 different options, and we cover all 3 of them, whether it's futures, commodities, derivatives, if I remember, and then the NSE index. So as long as you get MetaStock with the correct package, and our sales guys can help you get that set up, you will have the Indian market. So since you're in India, I'll just type out the address real quick here, and they can help you make sure that you get the right region. Okay. And thank you for your interest in MetaStock. I appreciate it. Okay. So now what I need from you, what stocks or what symbols do you want to look at? And we've already got Euro, US dollar. Michael, I see that in there for you. Give me some stocks, guys. And let's get into MetaStock. We're going to look at this. We might use Square. I'm sure it's going to work really well on RMO. Let me go ahead and close down this Square and V. Okay, deal. FTSE 100. Okay, that's enough. Okay, so we've got like 3 or 4. I'm going to go ahead and pull them up. We'll see how kind of things look. I'm going to go ahead. This is Square. I've applied the RMO trade model to the. No, I haven't. Okay, so I've got this open. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a couple more symbols. Okay, so I'll go to the chart here. I'm going to go ahead and open up EUR equals. That's the symbol for Euro US dollar, Thomson Reuters. If it's a US dollar pair, you don't have to put in the USD. You just type in the symbol you're interested in, and that'll get it out there. We'll do Square. I'm just going to open it up again, SQ. We'll do, and you'll notice I'm just putting them in by a space. I could find them on the list, but that's really pointless. And then we'll do, I think .ftse is the FTSE. Let me look that up. I just want to make sure. So there's a little bit of an instrument search here. I'm going to search by the symbol. I know that it's FTSE. Nope. There we go. I was right, .FTSE. Okay, we'll go ahead and open that up. And that's probably enough. 4, we won't have time to look at 4 today because we're going to spend most of the time actually looking at kind of different symbols. So, oh darn, how did that happen? FTSE. Okay, so we'll open up these 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the template, and the template that you're going to want to apply is the RMO trade model. Okay. Oh, let me throw in the Dow for good measure. DIA. Okay. And what we're going to do here is, so there's a template in here. The template's just a collection of indicators in an expert advisor. The one I'm looking for is RMO trade model. And you'll see there's a lot of different templates that are in here. There's a lot of different ways to look at things in here. Let's go ahead and do the RMO. Okay. Let's go ahead and open up the charts for me. Okay. We do have an alert. This is what a pop-up alert looks like in MetaStock. I'm going to tell it to skip all the remaining ones, but it's alerting to us that there's a swing trade and a swing trade 3. So you can get real-time alerts. If I wanted to, I could also fire this off to an email address. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and close it down. And I'm going to look at all of the charts that I've got open in a tiled view just by clicking on this. And I'm going to get rid of the ones we didn't just open. So I have the Dow on a monthly basis right here. We'll get rid of it. Here's the Square that we were looking at earlier. So, and we were looking at Cardinal Health Group. And no, don't save. And so I should just have RMO charts open. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and retile this. Oh, not that way, this way. Okay, and what we'll do, oh, this is the forex JPY still. No, and it kind of changed the scaling a little bit. So let's go ahead and kind of just take a look at Wow, I did not mean to do that. Look at the way some of these charts look. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just size them out a little bit more. And I think we'll start with square, actually, because that was such a, I'm going to keep square around. We can obviously look at the FTSE. Let's just go ahead and kind of like let me explain the rules to you, and we'll kind of go through that. So, and you guys can, if you guys have questions as we go, let me know. Okay, so now that we've got the charts open that we're going to look at all 4 of them. We're going to look at square most of all. Okay, remember that I said when we started that this is a trend following system. So what we want to be able to do is we want to identify the trend. Very simple, right? Rush says, can you show Bitcoin US dollar fissures? Yes. There are a few Bitcoin symbols that are available, Mr. Rush. And for more information on and a listing of the ones that are available, I would refer you to our sales team. They're a little bit more comfortable with the way those symbols are put together. Okay. If they trade on an exchange, you can absolutely look at them. With Bitcoin, there's quite a few different symbols that they've got. Okay. All right. So step 1. What we're going to do is we're going to identify the primary trend. And remember, this is a daily chart. They're all daily charts. You can do this on any time frame you want with MetaStock real time. If you have MetaStock DC, you can look at like daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly, annual. With intraday, you can look at any time frame you want, including intraday, including tick charts as well. Okay. So step 1, what we want to do with the RMO, again, we're on step 1, is we want to be able to identify the long-term trend of a stock. Okay, the trend is our friend. Let's kind of identify it. And to do that, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at this what Rahul calls the RMO oscillator. Okay, our RMO just stands for Rahul Mohinder oscillator. Oh, I think I wiggled my cord and it lost the connection to MetaStock, but that's okay. We'll let it reconnect. Hopefully it will. It did. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a line here. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, here we go. Okay, this line is close to 0. It should be at 0. And the way you read this indicator is very, very simple. If it's above 0, then long term, the RMO is giving a bullish reading. Okay, so for the most part, ever since like November 2nd of 2016, this has been in a bullish zone. Okay, if it's down below 0, then it's giving a bearish reading. And you can kind of look at the indicator on the chart, or if I go back to the chart view, you can see that the RMO is either there's going to be a ribbon at the bottom here that says your RMO is bullish or your RMO is bearish. So you can look at the chart or you can look at the ribbon. Okay, so what does it mean when we're bullish? Okay, well, as long as we're bullish, what that means is we want to trade with the trend. So it's just a permission to go long. It's not just because it goes above 0, we don't take a long position. It just gives us permission to go long. And what it also does is it doesn't give us permission to go short. So as long as this is bullish long term, we're not going to take any short positions. It's just that simple. Okay. And Rahul is very, very specific about this. He says size and shape don't matter. So if it's way up here, or if it's down here, as long it's either bullish or bearish. It's a true or false reading. If it's up above here, it's bullish, which means you're allowed to go long. If it's down below 0 and not allowed to go short, if it's down below 0, it means you're allowed to go short, but you're not allowed to go long. Okay, does this make sense? It's very easy. And that's why I like to show this at the end of a long day. But you can see from here, just even taking that into account and the trend into account, if we'd been following this for quite some time, if we had started to buy this back in November, and if we're only going long of 2016, we would have only taken long positions from 11 to about 99. And this is a very good example. It's not this beautiful and all, but it works really good on really good trending stocks, and this is a really good trending stock. Okay, so that's step number 1. Identify your primary trend. Very simple. Step number, if it's bullish, if that RMO is in a bullish zone, you're allowed to buy. You're not allowed to sell, and it's not a trigger to get out of the market. Very simple. Okay. Second step, identify the short-term trend. Okay. So let's do that. I'll show you exactly how that works. Okay, right here we have the swing trade 2 and the swing trade 3 indicator. I'm going to make them full screen. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change one of them to be a line. Anytime you want to change something in MetaStock, just double click on it. It's very, very intuitive software to use. I'm just going to change this to a line. I'm going to go ahead and click on apply and click on close. I prefer to look at my RMO this way, or my RMO trade model this way. Okay, and you might too. Okay, the indicator that we're actually going to focus on first is the swing trade number 2. Okay, or the pink indicator on the chart, and you'll notice that it's pretty similar in terms of kind of the primary trend indicator. It's actually your short-term indicator, so it's quite a bit more erratic. Okay, so it has a tendency to go down below 0 quite a bit more often than, because it's looking at a short time frame, so it doesn't take as big of a price movement to push that down below 0. The good news is you read it the same way. So if it's up here above 0, then short term you're bullish as well. If it's down below 0, then short term you're bearish. Okay, and you use it the same way. We'll talk a little bit about how you get trades in a second, but as long as this is bullish, you're allowed to go long. If it's bearish, you're allowed to go short. Okay, and just like we had the ribbon at the bottom of the chart, you'll notice, because I'm going to point it out right here, as long as this indicator is up above 0, it's going to paint the bars blue. So you can see the short-term trend either in this indicator ribbon window, or you can also see that short-term it's been bullish for a while too. It's been bullish since like April of this year, short-term. Now it'll get red from time to time, and that's normal, but that just, but again, for the most part, this thing has been bullish both long-term and short-term for a couple of years solid. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, it is fairly straightforward, but do let me know if you have any questions. Okay, once we've identified the primary trend is bullish and the short-term trend is bullish, we're still allowed to buy. We're not allowed to go short, obviously, and it's not a trigger. Okay, the other thing that's important is you want your primary trend and your short-term trend to match. Okay, so if they don't match, you can scan. The MetaStock has the scanner. We've talked about the scanner quite a bit today, but you're allowed to either, if they don't match, you can wait for them to match. On a stock like Square, that might be a really good idea, or you can use this Explorer to scan for other opportunities. Okay, all right. So what we get into next is you want to identify how exactly how to get into the stock, and that's where the medium-term trend comes into play. Okay, so if I go back into the chart here, and we look at these two indicators again, we're going to talk about the relationship of the pink line to the blue line. Okay, the pink line, as I just said, is the short-term trend, and the blue line is the medium-term trend. But here is where it gets a little bit different. Okay, we don't really care if this is above or below 0. What we use this as the medium-term trend is we use it as a gauge to how the market is moving in relationship to the short-term trend. And let me see if I can be really, really specific right here. Okay, if you notice right here, if we're looking at the medium-term trend, what happened is we had a pretty serious pullback in this. It came down, and that's going to correspond inevitably to a pullback in price. You can see the pullback in price happen. Okay. What will then end up happening is the market will either start to get bearish and the bulls will get out of it, or the trend is going to resume. It's going to be one of those two things, right? So in this case, the trend resumed, the stock started to rally back up, and your short-term trend indicator rallied up above the medium-term trend. And this right here is what Rahul calls a change of momentum, or a change of direction, or a change of force. Okay, and you'll notice that when that happens on the chart, you'll get a little bit of a buy signal here. Okay, when it crossed down to the short side, what you got was a little bit of a sell signal. But if you're looking at this sell signal that happened on 9/17 on this daily chart, what you're going to say is, well, I'm not going short. It's bullish long term and it's bullish short term. Okay, but when that shift of momentum happened Friday. This just happened, and now and you gave me the symbol, I didn't, so it's just a bit of a coincidence that it did happen. But when this happened, it actually gave us a signal. We had that change of momentum and that change of direction and that change of force. Okay, so right now what we've got is we've got that change of momentum in a bullish long-term zone, okay, which is your RMO reading here or the ribbon down here, and in a short-term strong zone as well, or a short-term bullish zone as well, which is, you can look at the bar and it's colored blue, so you know that it's a short-term bullish. Now there is some other rules that go along with this if we wanted to take this trade, and since we have one right here on the chart, I'll show you exactly how they work. And again, this isn't a recommendation to buy, but you actually do have an active buy signal here. So when that happens, Rahul has some pretty specific rules on how to take the trade. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you what those are. Okay, I'm going to grab my horizontal line tool in MetaStock right here. I'm going to look at the high of this bar. I'm going to look at the high of the bar before, and I'm going to say, okay, well, this bar is higher than this bar. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit above that high, maybe not very high, but right at this line, which is 100.5, that's where I'm going to buy. Okay, and I'd like to see just a little bit more, just a little bit of the white space. So 100.6 is actually where I would put this line. Okay, and this is actually where I'd enter square. Okay, if we start to, if on Monday this market opens and it opens at 106, 101 or something, I'd go ahead and buy it. This is what I want, and what Rahul teaches you to look for is a breach of the high. What he wants is a bit of an extra confirmation that this stock is going to continue its upward rally. Okay. The other thing that you're going to want to do with Rahul, again, I talked about how it uses solid money management, and it does. What you're going to want to be able to do is do a stop. Okay. And there's two ways you can do a stop. I'm going to show you the way I don't use personally and the way I do. Okay. One of the ways that Rahul teaches is he'll look at, just like we did with the highs, he'll look at the lows. So here's the low here, here's the low here, and you put a bit of a horizontal line right across the chart here, and this would be your stop loss. Okay. So if we get into this trade, we get in at 100.6. If we use this stop loss, we'd get out at 94, roughly about a 6% or so stop loss. Okay, and what do we know there? Okay, and this is the reason I like it. So if we know we're getting at 100.6, we're going to get out at 94. We have a really good idea, number one, of how much we're risking before we get in the trade. But number two, we have a really, really good idea of what our stop is. We know exactly where we're going to get out of this trade before we get into it. And that way, we're not making the decisions while we're actually trading. Now, this is the first method that Rahul uses. It's a more conservative stop loss than the one I like to use. And I'll show you the second method that Rahul teaches. So you can use that. Typically what I like to do is I like to look for a pivot low. Okay, and in case you're not familiar with that term, because it's technical, a pivot low is very simple. To me, what I'm looking for is a low that's surrounded by two higher lows. So if I look at this low right here, it's surrounded by two higher lows. Okay, if I look at this low is lower and this low is higher, so this isn't a pivot low, this isn't a pivot low, this isn't a pivot low. This is the first low that I have back in time that has a pivot low. In other words, that is surrounded by two higher lows. So this is what I would use for my stop loss right here. Okay, and in that case, I just put a line right down below here. Now this stop is wider. Okay, right here, now instead of 100, you're taking almost 81. So that's a significantly wider room. And on an initial entry, I might even consider taking this initial low, but I find over time giving it a little bit more room, it works well for me anyway. Okay, so there's your trade setup. If it goes up above 100.67, you can buy, put in a stop loss at either here or here. Okay, now that's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but it does happen to be an accurate signal that has a trade set up on it right now. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you how you move your stops, and to do that I have to go back in history. Okay, so I'm going to go back quite a ways because I want to make sure that we move our stop a couple of times, and then I walk you through this. Okay, and I'm going to go a little bit quicker because we did explain the entry rules, and I'm going to pretend that we ran a scan for this. We said, okay, show us everything in a new bullish zone, which is a scan you can run, and that it came up on our scan here on 11/3 of 2016. So, and we'll just go through a couple of trades on this. I'll show you how it works. So if we started to look at this from our new blue scan or our new bullish scan on 11/3 of 2016, we would have taken a look at it. We would have seen that it had just gone bullish long term, and on the same day it went bullish short term. And we'll see that the day before we started looking at it, it gave us a buy signal. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in an entry. We'd put our entry right about here, and based on my pivot low, here is my closest pivot low. Okay, right there. The other thing I like about using this is I'm not trying to make a determination of where my stop should go based on how much money I can afford to lose. I don't think the market cares about that. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for a pretty good support level. In other words, this pivot low is something that the market is telling me. In this case, our initial trade, our entry would be at about 12 bucks. This thing is, I wish I would have bought this back in 2016, but our initial stop loss for that would have been about 10.92, right? Okay. And then this is the day that we're setting up the trade. Very next day, we open below our entry price. It comes up above our entry price, and we get in. Okay, and then the very next thing that we do is we kind of put in our stop. Okay, again, we're not making these decisions. It's not a very sexy system. We don't really want to have a sexy trading system. What we want is something that is very mechanical, that's methodical, that's based in stuff that works, and we don't want to be making those decisions when we trade. So we get into the market. It's bullish. It kind of goes sideways for a while, and as long as it's going sideways and still bullish, we're just gonna kind of be happy we're in the trade, and when it starts to go up, we're gonna be even happier. Okay. And it isn't until we get into that trade, it's not until December. So remember, we were looking at November. It's not until December that we actually had that shift of momentum back to the downside. And again, this is a trend following system. So it's going to be after the peak. You're going to have a bit of a pullback. Okay. And then, like I said before, it's either going to resume. You have that shift in momentum, and it's either going to resume its trend, which is what happened, or it's going to go bearish. Okay. If it goes bearish long term, and if it goes bearish short term, and you're in a trade, on the other side, you need to get out. Okay. But other than that, you're going to have the market moves in stair steps, right? So you're going to have a bit of an upward drift. It comes down, it sets a new support level, and then hopefully it resumes its current trend. Again, you all know that a trend doesn't last forever, right? So, but in this case, it does set a new support area, and then it starts to trend in the direction that was going before. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Here we set the low. A couple of days later, we have that change of momentum, or that change of direction, or that change of force. And at this point, Rahul says you can buy additional shares. Okay, even if you're in a long position, if you want to buy more, you can. Personally, I don't like to do that. I like to buy as many as I am. I like to find square setups, kind of like the square one, where it goes from bullish to, or bearish to bullish. Okay, and there's scans in there for MetaStock. But there's one thing that you need to do when this happens, because think about kind of the logic of the market. It's rallied at this point. It's come back. The sellers have come in. They've decided on a new support area, and now we expect it to rally again. So instead of keeping our stop loss down at 10.50 or whatever we started with, what we want to be able to do is identify a place where we can put in a new stop. We want to protect some of our profit because a new support zone is set up, right? And I use the same rule. I'll come back here and I'll find a pivot low, which is right here. Okay, again, that's a low, so surrounded by two higher lows. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, okay, well, This is my new line in the sand. If it goes down below 13.50, I got in at 11, I'm already up $2 on a $11 stock. If it, or $1 on an, no, it's been a long day, $2 on an $11 stock. If it comes down to below 13.50, I'll be happy with it. I'll just get out of it, okay? So that's right here. This is where we're moving our stop. We're moving our stop because of that change in momentum. We expect the stock to start going up again and to resume that trend it was in. If it doesn't, well, we want to have a plan to get out, okay? It doesn't exactly take off from there, right? We have that bit of a pullback, okay? And here it even goes bearish long-term or short-term, okay? But as long as it's still bullish long-term, I stay in these things, okay? And you'll notice we have some pretty serious pullbacks, but and a lot of sideways here. But as long as we're bullish here, we're going to go ahead and stay in. And we never get to the point where we're testing that stop. Eventually, this consolidation pattern chews through, and we get enough of an upward tick where it gives us that bullish signal. And so then we're going to move our stop. And here's the closest pivot low I can see, okay? And in this case, we're not moving it up that much, okay? We're giving this some room to fish. And that's why I like this exit method as opposed to the closer one. Let's go ahead and kind of keep moving on here, okay? Here you get a high pullback. Again, you get an opportunity to move your stop. And in this case, here's where we're moving the stop. Here's our closest pivot low. And look, we're going to trigger out of that stop. So that first trade that we took in this move, let me just go back out a little bit. We got in here, okay? We moved our stop here. We moved our stop here, and then we initially got out at about 16.61. Okay, so even that first initial move, $12 to 16, that's a fairly substantial move for a $12 stock. Okay, here we have a bit of a chop, and this is why you want that penetration to the upside, right? Because if we get in here, we're going to look at the penetration of this high, right? We're going to put in a stop right here. We're going to it'll probably trigger into that and get us out. Okay, and there is some whipsaws. That's a trade that's going to lose us a few dollars, but again, we have that pivot low right here that we can work on. Okay, actually, no, we were in when this signaled. That's why we moved our stop. So I'm looking at the wrong part of the chart. Here's where we would have stopped out. Here we get another signal to go long. Okay, all right. Now I'm looking at the right part of the chart. Okay, I would have put an entry right here with a stop probably just a little bit lower. And it doesn't look like that one would have stopped out, so let's just go ahead and play with it, okay? So here, again, let's keep with what we're doing, okay? Here we get the long signal. Here's our pivot low right here, a low surrounded by two higher lows, okay? Gonna move the stop just a little bit right here, 16.19, and we'll put our entry price in right above the high. The next day we buy in, okay? Let me go on, okay? We have a bit of a pullback. It doesn't take off initially. Here it gets bearish short term, but again, the whole time we're bullish long term, okay? This is, you see how kind of simple this is? It goes sideways for a while, but we haven't hit our stop loss. Here we get another signal to go long, so we could inch up our stop if we wanted to. I probably would do that. I'd put a new stop right here, okay, right below the lows there. Okay, and we just keep going, and then we start to get some big movements to the top side. Okay, nice run up. Here we get an opportunity to move our stop. You see how easy this is once you kind of understand the rules. Once you get into a trade on this thing, as long as it keeps going up, you're going to be happy. But what you want to be able to do is kind of structure those losses in. Here we have a bit of a signal to go short. Here we get another buy signal. And you'll notice right here, our pivot low isn't till down here, right? But we've just had a massive move up, so we don't necessarily want it to be too tight. We want to give it some room to kind of fluctuate. But if we start to go sideways, you'll notice how we have a tendency to move our stop closer to price just by following the rules, okay? I'm just going to kind of go to the end of this particular trade. We didn't stop out during this pullback. You get an entry signal right here, okay, you would have moved your stop right here, okay, right here. Okay, here you had another one, so we'd probably move it at that point to right here, and then the stock really starts to decide on a trend. Okay, goes up, little bit of a pullback, not very much, and then it fires off that another time to move up our stop right here. And so you see what we're trying to do. We're just trying to kind of take advantage of, measure the trend and take advantage of the overall trend. This is such a simple system to use. Pull back, move your stop. Pull back, move your stop. Pull back, move your stop. Again, it's not that sexy. It's not that crazy. Pull back, move your stop. As long as everything doesn't go bearish, you're not going to change your position. Okay. And by doing this, I'm almost kind of getting sick of kind of moving my stop up here. But by doing this, I notice what time it is too. So there's that as well. Here's where we would have gotten out of that trade right here. Okay. We moved our stop based on this buy signal. We moved it to this pivot low. It was penetrated just a couple more days. Now, the stock's just going to keep going up because of the stock that we're looking at. But the ability to kind of look at a trend and follow these massive moves up, we would have got back into this trade right here, moved our stop here, moved our stop here. It doesn't take, it's a very, very easy symbol to follow, or a very easy system to follow. And what Rahul does a really good job with is taking big chunks out of these sideways or out of these trends, whether they're up or down. This thing also looks great on GE, by the way, over the last couple of years. So that's really kind of what he excels at, is kind of being able to do this. And you'll notice at no point are we just flying into this and holding on to it blindly. At all times, what we have is we have a stop loss. We're continuously moving that stop up. And with that stop loss technique, we're giving ourselves enough room to fish. Like I said, I've shown this about 300 times. We're kind of running out of time to show the other two stock or the other three stocks, but we'll just eyeball them because I promised we would, and I am a man of my word. And we'll just kind of take a look at kind of how they look. And that square was such an idealized example. Oh, I didn't mean to go full screen here. I just meant to make it quite a bit bigger here, so you can kind of see everything. So on FTSE, FTSE's been sideways enough, but if you look at kind of the last major movements we had, here was the peak to the trough. You would have gotten a pretty good signal here, but you wouldn't have been bullish till about right here. You probably would have bought in right about here on this long trade. And just eyeballing it, probably got out here. So even though this has been a bit of a more sideways instrument, it still does a pretty good job of helping you take big parts of the trends that you have. Let's take a look at one of the other ones. And oh, it's connecting to MetaStock again. I wonder what's going on with my internet. Okay, since it's a forex pair, I don't think you want to trade those on a daily basis. So let's take a look at it on an intraday basis, as long as my data holds up. And I just changed it over to an hourly chart. We are getting a bit of an alert here. Let's take a look at skip. Okay, if that pops in again. Okay, so just looking at the last kind of few days on the hourly chart, it went bearish right here, 12 o'clock on 9/26. It's been in a pretty much a downtrend, and you would have been taking short positions, probably starting about right here, just eyeballing it again. This is the hourly chart on the, if you're using this intraday, you want to learn how to use this exit swing signal indicator, which is fairly simple. Like if you get into a short position right here, what you're going to wait is for it to go up above this red line and cross down and then start to trail a stop. I didn't talk about that because you don't use it as much on the daily. You can if you want to. But like, let's say we went into this short position right here, okay, based on the breakout here, okay. Obviously, we're in that position, starts to kind of go sideways. That pushes this up above the red line. Once it drops down below that, you want to start to put in a trailing stop. That's how Rahul teaches to use it, okay. Dimitri says, thank you for everything. Very informative, learned a lot. Longtime MetaStock user, have 16 now. Thanks for using it. Have a good weekend. And then I guess he had to go. So in any case, I love to show that system. And I mean, I'm realizing that the time too. So again, the reasons I like to show that. It's objective. One of the things that a couple of the other classes that I do kind of talk a little bit more about the system testing, and I am going to throw together a bonus class that you guys can come to that talks more extensively about the power tools and the system testing. But this is easy. So at the end of a long day, I can teach you a couple of rules so we can see some good trades. It's objective, and again, it works really, really well. It's definitely something that I've been using for, gosh, I don't even know how long now. It's a very, very approachable system, and it works really, really well. So there's a little bit of a preview of one of the built-in systems to MetaStock. If you have not yet, and I want to stress a couple of things right now, there's a reason MetaStock's been rated #1 in its price category for 25 years in a row. Like, that's every single year since 1993 to this year. We just won it again in this year. This isn't this is an award that the readers of stocks and commodities vote on every year. And thank you for all of you that actually vote and vote us the best software. Okay. It's also powered by one of the best data platforms that's available with MetaStock Zenith. And so today, what you can do is you can pick up 3 months of MetaStock, 3 months of Zenith, get an awesome deal on all of the add-ons that we talked about: Steve Bigelow, Joe Duffy, Adrian Mance, Ichimoku Master. And again, 2 years of stocks and commodities, 3 months access to MetaStock Real-Time, 3 months access to MetaStock Zenith. The MetaStock Bootcamp course that I'm going to do next Thursday at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. The Unleash the Power of MetaStock course, which is normally $99. We're going to throw it. We're going to have one of our support representatives, and it's an awesome team. Well, one of the things I'll say about our support team is they're all based here in Utah, and there's more people in support than in sales and marketing put together. I think it was Adrian that was talking about how much he likes our support team. That's not uncommon. I hear good things from people talking about, hey, I talked to Heidi today, she did a great job. I can't believe how nice she was. Or, hey, I talked to Lucy today, and oh my gosh, she did such a good job helping us. They really do a good job, and this one-on-one MyGov installation support is something that we just started. People love it because we go in and we say, okay, do this, do this, do this. Do you have any questions? And they just get them running. So easy. So you can get all of that. $25.96 would be the normal price. The Summit special pricing here today is $15.96. And what I'm going to also tell you is if you try that out, everything but the data costs that we actually pay for Reuters and MetaStock are refundable. So you can go ahead and get everything running. You can get, if it's not going to be helpful for you, your real risk here is like $250. So $15.96 is what you'll pay for that package. If you decide it isn't helpful, you'll get a refund of all but $250. So I would encourage you to give us a call. 800-882-3040. Chat online with us at metastock.com/saleschat. They can answer any questions you have. A great group of guys that are here today. We've got Edward and Bobby that have come in today to just help you answer questions. So I want to say thank you again to everybody that's ordered today. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. It surprised me how many orders we've had already. So I appreciate that. If you haven't done it, do it. Again, it's a top-rated software. It's backed by Reuters data. You're going to love it. I wouldn't trade without it. 800-882-3040. And one last throw out to Stocks and Commodities Magazine for supporting us and, in the summit. I hope you enjoyed the summit today. Dave says, thank you. Dave says, well, I'm going to read this one, Dave. MetaStock is better than TC2000 because it's got good news. I added the word good there, and FX. Dave says, got me the package installation on Tuesday. Can't wait for the webinar on Thursday. I'll see you there, Dave. Thanks for getting it. Caleb says, I very much enjoyed the program. John says, what a great job in the production. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the summit today. There is a little bit of work that goes along the scenes. I am a bit tired, and I am going to go home and take a nap. So I hope you guys, thank you for coming. Thanks, Steve, both the Steves, everybody that kind of presented here today. I hope it was valuable for you. And I hope that it encourages you to try the software, because you're not going to regret that decision. In any case, that's me. I'm going to sign off. We'll see you at the next one.